I want to kind of change topics because I'm so excited and I don't want to run out of time before we get to this. This is probably as excited as I've been. So one of the things I really want to hear from you guys about is this, like, this sea of kind of sameness in the industry that historically, like if you look at a firm's website, even today when I click through different firm websites, like everything just seems the same a little bit. It's kind of a struggle to differentiate. And when I have talked to you guys in the past, I just get this sense that these things that you're figuring out and tinkering with are going to kind of enable firms to do things they've wanted to do. You know what I mean? Like advisors to go out and differentiate and figure out new ways of working with clients and new ways of positioning their services and talking about these topics in ways that resonate with clients, basically. So what I'm curious about is like, where do you see this going? Where do you see the industry going? Where do you see kind of some of the advisors you're working with doing things that are unique that you think could really push the industry forward? It's a big question. Don't
Yeah,
both jump at it at once.
I'm like, where do I want to start, Kelsey? Because it's literally this we could talk about for hours, right? I think that there's a lot here, and I want to be thoughtful about the time we have left. But I'm excited about the future of where we're going because I think the combination of the internet, the marketing tools that we have available to ourselves, the AI stuff that's coming out, and the ability for people to create and find authentic communities is going to shift how we are providing financial planning to our clients. And what do I mean by that? I mean that my vision is that clients can find an advisor through Advise that they are 100% comfortable with, that gets them. And advisors are working with the communities that they desperately want to serve. And Leighann and I have figured that out for ourselves. We are watching advisors develop that right now. We are very excited about our next advisor who's going to be joining us. This advisory team that I mentioned, they've got a specialty within the tech space. They're really tech veterans and they're helping tech people in that space. We have talked to advisors who are wanting to build brands around first generation Latino and Latinx immigrants and their families, and trying to figure out how to serve folks who are in the growth mode of their career in a different way at a different price point to give them the financial foundations that don't usually get given to you until you have $1 million in assets. What does that look like? What does that service model look like? What does it look like for women in STEM or Black women in STEM to find an advisor that's specific to them? We know that person, right? And how do you, as a person who's searching for that, find your person, right? You've got to be able to connect those dots. And that's where I see the future of the industry really innovating and creating more opportunities to match appropriately with the advisor that's going to give you the most comfortable experience. Because when clients really are understood, their lives can truly change through this work. And that's where the empowerment back to the client is like what gives me the shivers, right? Like what gets me going. Then I'm like talking about this, I'm getting goosebumps. Like this is where I see the change happening. But those advisors can't build those businesses if they're only taking home 30% of their revenue. They can't build those businesses if compliance takes 4 weeks to approve their podcast. They can't build those businesses if their only pathway to success is taking on a retiring advisor's book, right? Our client base. So I think we are going to I would love to see more options for advisors to find homes that empower them and give them the space to innovate around their practice.
Yeah, it's so exciting. I have so many like friends and family members and even past coworkers in this very industry who are just like, I don't feel like this is for me. Like I don't find I Google it. I don't see any one out there. And they'll even come and say like, who do you recommend? And then I'm Googling. It's so hard because everyone sounds, and I'm sure the advisor is out there. The advisor who wants to serve that client is out there, but I can't find them. And I think there's a fear around like saying something different or positioning your services differently or trying a new business model because the failure rates are so high. It's really hard to figure out and to figure out all these moving pieces and all the compliance and operate. It's really, really hard. So yeah, it's so exciting to hear kind of what you guys are seeing and what you're experiencing because I personally think it's the future of the industry. Everyone should be able to find someone who seems like they're for them. And then when they meet that person, that authenticity is there and the trust is built right away, and a streamlined business model is there to support that advisor as they continue to onboard those clients. So I think it's awesome.
I was just saying that those advisors are trailblazers. They're out there, but they're doing it. They're having to do it in such a hard way. It's so hard, right? So hard to build that from scratch and find those people and do and wear, to Leann's point, all of the hats. You're doing all of the things because there's not a place for you to plug and play right now to do that, to build that practice.
Yes, I think that that's amazing. And I think everything you guys are doing is great. Maybe you could just kind of talk a little bit more about how you help advisors figure out, because what I'm really taking away from this, which has been something I haven't thought about too much, but what is your definition of success and how much we talk about it all the time in startup world, but I haven't actually thought of it in terms of the advisory space because there has always been that standard. So how do you guys go about helping advisors if that's something they're struggling with? Do you have like any tips or exercises or anything that you would recommend if an advisor's trying to really figure out kind of what is my North Star? What am I aiming for? And then how do I make the next decision on what the right fit might be for me?
I think the biggest thing that was impactful for me at least was finally learning my true why, right? I read Simon Sinek's book. And I had kind of this moment. I was sitting in bed and I was like, holy crap, like the heavens opened and I was like, that was my why. And I think once I truly, I think like everyone, and I mentioned earlier, oh, I want to help people. Sure. But like, it's deeper than that for a lot of people. And I don't know that all of us are fully aware of the true desire and where it comes from. And so I think when advisors understand their true why of why they're doing this, it helps them to understand kind of who they want to work with, why they want to work with them, kind of where their skills naturally align, to kind of pursue in that direction. And I think, we're beat over the heads in this industry of like, you need to have a certain amount of AUM, you need to have a certain number of clients or whatever it is, whatever metric it is. Typically it's AUM. That's what we've been told. You should have X AUM by this part of, point in your career. And I think individually it comes down to what kind of lifestyle you want to have, which then translates to what kind of revenue you need from your business. And so I think there's a lot of negative talk in the industry around like, oh, like you want a lifestyle practice, right? In quotes, or you want, it's like, oh, you should be striving, like Katrina said, oh, $1 million practice is kind of the target. But then the question becomes, but why? Like for what purpose? And if your goal, your ideal, you live and you're like, yeah, I just need $250,000 to live comfortably with my family and like do all the things we want to do, save for retirement, then like that's success for you. And I think understanding what that number is and having something tied to it is really helpful for achieving it, for getting to it. And so I always try and tell people, what is the ultimate goal that you're looking for? It's the same thing with clients as when you're talking to advisors. What is truly important to you? How are we prioritizing the things in your life that matter to you? And how do you get there? What tools do you have at your disposal? What resources do you have? Your time, your money, et cetera. You have different tools available to you to achieve those things. And so it's the same conversation as with clients and advisors. What does success look like for you? And then you work backwards from that.